What's up everyone, this is Tony with Journey Crypto. In this video we're going to be talking about how much Bitcoin you should own and scarcity of Bitcoin and inflation and other things that are inevitably going to make Bitcoin continue to rise over the years. So before we get into all that, I appreciate if you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell to be notified when I release new videos. I'm doing at least 2 crypto videos per day, and sometimes this is very time sensitive information, so you definitely want to hit the bell if you want to be notified right away. So before we get started, I want to give you guys a quick disclaimer that I'm not a financial advisor and you should always do your own research and make your own financial decisions. Don't take any YouTuber's word for whatever they're saying. Always do your own research. Also, I want to give you guys a warning about all the scammers right now. Scammers are coming out in the masses. I've been getting emails of people getting scammed on Telegram and even in the comments here on YouTube. Be very careful. There's people using my name and logo. So a quick summary of Bitcoin as we get started here, talking about how much Bitcoin you should own to be in the top holders of Bitcoin. And it's much less than you would think. So Bitcoin scarcity is a big thing. As you guys can see here on CoinMarketCap, there is 18.6 million Bitcoin in circulation, and there can only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. And how this works is Bitcoin is released into circulation from miners who contribute to the network as transactions happen to verify transactions. That's how the Bitcoin network is possible. And then eventually, all of the Bitcoin will be in circulation. As you guys can see here, max supply is 21 million. So that's all the Bitcoin that can ever exist. So scarcity is a major thing for Bitcoin because a lot of richer people want to own 1 Bitcoin each, but there's just not enough Bitcoin out there for every millionaire to own 1 Bitcoin each. So scarcity is a huge thing, especially because we have institutions and everything buying up hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. So how many Bitcoins are there? There's 2.4 million Bitcoin left to be mined over the span of the next 20 or so years. Not sure exactly when that ends. 88.5% of Bitcoin issued already, 18.6 million Bitcoin in existence, and 900 new Bitcoins per day. And just so you guys know, Grayscale, the institutional company, they buy up around 2,000 Bitcoin per day. Just for reference, that's one company, and there's dozens of companies that are going to start getting into Bitcoin and buying up Bitcoin regularly. So over time, Bitcoin becomes more and more scarce. This is a major reason why the price will continue to rise at the same time as more and more fiat currency is printed, and I'm going to talk more about that later in this video and why Bitcoin could really go to infinity price when you think about it. So how many Bitcoins will ever be created? 21 million. How many Bitcoins are lost? This is very important as well, because early on in Bitcoin, people had hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of Bitcoin when they were worth pennies. So people that had this amount, they weren't super careful with it because it really wasn't worth a lot. Back then, maybe $1,000 worth of Bitcoin would now be worth hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, even billions. So people had their passwords to their Bitcoin wallets on their computers. They got new computers, not realizing they had that Bitcoin password there. They got a new computer, threw out the old one, and that Bitcoin is lost forever. So this article estimates that 3 to 4 million Bitcoins are lost forever. So knock that off the current circulating supply of 18.6 million, and you're looking at more around 13 to 14 million Bitcoin currently in circulation. And that doesn't include all the whales and everything that are holding long term. So in my opinion, this can actually be much more. I've heard from other reputable sources 4 to 6 million Bitcoins are lost forever. You have to also consider Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, has a wallet with 1 million Bitcoin in it that has never been touched and probably never will be. So we often see crazy news like this coming up, like the first transaction for Bitcoin was 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. And this news here, man accidentally threw away $127 million in Bitcoin, and officials won't allow a search. There is also recent news, a man who forgot his password on brink of losing $300 million worth of a Bitcoin fortune, and he only has 2 password attempts left to get access to this $300 million Bitcoin fortune. So stuff like this happens all the time, and people just end up losing their Bitcoin. Early on, Bitcoin was just thrown around like it was monopoly money, basically, because in the beginning it basically was. No one knew what it was or trusted it. It was completely new to the world, and the only people that were dealing in it were basically people that were tech savvy on these forums and happened to be there at the right time. So there's another story of a guy that was on these forums, and basically he was paid 10,000 Bitcoins just to accept the Bitcoin and create a Bitcoin wallet, and willing to try it out and understand it. Of course, this was around the inception of Bitcoin, when basically it was brand new. All the coins were created at that time, so there's really no value. Bitcoins were pennies at the time. So obviously it quickly started gaining value and picking up traction, eventually picking up to where it's at today, around $40,000 per Bitcoin. Just insane. And this is expected to grow into the millions 10-20 years down the line, and we will talk more about why the price of Bitcoin will inevitably continue rising into the future as well, and why this is barely getting started here. So in case you guys didn't know, Bitcoin is actually programmed to mathematically become more scarce over time as well, and this is the Bitcoin halving that happens around every 4 years at a certain block. So Bitcoin, the last Bitcoin halving occurred on May 11th, which is one of the reasons why Bitcoin is quickly growing in price here. And around that time, Bitcoin was around $7,000 to $10,000 depending on the day. So a Bitcoin halving event is when the reward for mining Bitcoin transactions is cut in half. So those that contribute to the network and verify transactions and contribute by mining, they are rewarded in Bitcoin that are created every day. So before this last halving, 1,800 Bitcoins were created every single day as rewards for miners. And on May 11th here, that was cut in half to 900 Bitcoins per day moving forward. And in 4 years, it will be cut in half again to only 450 Bitcoins per day. So this is necessary to pay out the miners, because without the miners, there wouldn't be a network that could be verified, and it wouldn't be decentralized, which is the whole thing about Bitcoin. So this event also cuts in half Bitcoin's inflation rate and the rate at which new Bitcoins enter circulation. Both previous halvings have correlated with intense boom and bust cycles that have ended with higher prices than prior to the event. So I always, when Bitcoin crashes back after it has a huge bull run, it inevitably has a higher low and then continues going back up after the next halving as well, as you guys can see here. So end of 2016, I believe, was the halving before this one. So as you guys can see here, after that halving took place during 2017 was the first major bull run for Bitcoin. And then we just had the last one in May here. And as you guys can see again, the price went straight upwards, parabolic, and this is due to scarcity. But this time around, we also have institutions buying up Bitcoin and retail investors as well. So Google Trends is a good place to look here. If you set it to worldwide for the past 5 years, you can get a good idea of how popular Bitcoin is in the world right now. And this is how much it's being searched in Google. So as you can see, the search rate for Bitcoin is near the peak of the last bull run again. And this will probably continue growing, and we have inflation this time around as well. So the Bitcoin halving is one of many reasons why the price of Bitcoin will continue to rise over the years. And I will go over some other reasons as well. But first, we're going to talk about how much Bitcoin you should own based on these news articles. This is Bitcoin.com. So if you want to be part of the elite Bitcoin's 1% club, you actually only need to own 0.28 Bitcoin, which is about 1/4 of a Bitcoin. At the current price of around $40,000, 1/4 of a Bitcoin would be around $10,000 right now to get into the 1% club of Bitcoin holders. And then in the future, there will be billions of people that can never own more Bitcoin than you statistically. So scarcity is one of the main reasons that makes Bitcoin so valuable. So I'm holding a small amount of Bitcoin for retirement basically. And I do think a lot of people are holding Bitcoin like that, like gold, basically a very long-term retirement investment. So if you do want to be in that 1% club of Bitcoin owners, all it takes is 0.28 Bitcoin to be in the top 1%. But then there's other articles like this one here that says why you should own at least 0.0025, which is much more affordable for the average person. So this talks about world population and compares this to how many people in the world can own Bitcoin. And when you're doing that many people, of course, it's going to be a very small amount of Bitcoin per person, especially since the world population is growing at a rapid pace. So another thing here is how many millionaires there are in the world. There's 46.8 million millionaires in the world having a net worth of at least $1 million or more. So that many millionaires, many of these people eventually are going to be wanting to own some Bitcoin, and a lot of them are going to want to own at least one Bitcoin. And there's not enough Bitcoin in existence, or that will ever be in existence, for every millionaire to currently own one Bitcoin each. As we said earlier, only 18.6 million Bitcoin in circulation, and probably around 5 million of that is lost forever. So that brings it down to around 13 million. So 50 million millionaires fighting over 13 million Bitcoin, and that doesn't consider other situations where people own a very large amount of Bitcoin that's taken out of circulation as well. So this is more likely fighting for around 5 to 8 million Bitcoin that's actually out there available. So when you consider scarcity like that, when demand really starts kicking in like it is, that's how the price of Bitcoin goes parabolic and goes upwards so quickly. Everyone FOMOs, which is fear of missing out, and they want to buy Bitcoin, and they're willing to jump in at any price, which makes the price go parabolic very quickly because they don't want to miss out thinking it's going to go to 100,000 or 300,000. There's a lot of predictions like that right now where Bitcoin in 2021 is going to hit at least $100,000, which it really isn't far off from that, a little over a 2x from the current price. So really how much Bitcoin you should personally own is going to be dependent on what your personal goals are with Bitcoin. For me, I am holding a little bit more than 0.28 Bitcoin that I'll hold for retirement, but I'm much more involved in altcoins that have much higher short-term potential, in my opinion. Although Bitcoin is very quickly rising, I think there's altcoins out there that can do much higher return on investment in a short period of time. And then I do have that small amount of Bitcoin for retirement regardless, so I'm set for that. Or if you just want to own a very small amount, that's okay too, depending on what your goals are. Of course, you're not going to get super rich with 0.0025 Bitcoin, but you could possibly get rich owning 0.28 Bitcoin, being in the 1% club of Bitcoin. So something different about this bull run compared to the last one is we have institutions buying up Bitcoin in the masses right now. They're buying millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin and taking that out of circulation very quickly. At the same time, we do have retail demand picking up now too. So this is why Bitcoin could easily hit $100,000 over 2021 alone. But holding this out for retirement, let's say, Bitcoin could definitely be in the millions, in my opinion, say 30-40 years from now. So basic supply, demand, and economics shows that Bitcoin will be on a steady incline over the years, especially in the next 5 years. I think is when Bitcoin's really going to be put on the map with the amount of inflation that's coming. So I do want to talk quickly about inflation and the economy and why universal basic income is going to be kicking in soon, and this is going to push the price of Bitcoin up continuously over the years. So this article is actually pretty old now, on October 15th, 2020. This states 23.6% of all US dollars were created in the last year alone. So normal inflation rates are 3 to 5% per year, but over the next few years, I do think it'll be 15, even 20% or more inflation per year. And not only that, but they're going to have to start doing universal basic income in some countries, and I do think that may be adopted worldwide very soon. And with Biden being president soon, many people are speculating that's going to be great for cryptocurrencies in general, because he's going to do so many stimulus packages and loans for governments that that's going to put a lot more money in circulation, which will inevitably cause more and more inflation. So before the election even got started and coronavirus broke out, Andrew Yang and Joe Rogan had an interview where they talked about universal basic income. Andrew Yang was running for president under the Democratic Party, and he did want to push universal basic income. I highly recommend checking out these videos of that interview. So they talk about why universal basic income is inevitably going to be coming in the next 5 to 10 years. And this is because AI and automation is becoming extremely advanced, and hundreds of thousands of jobs jobs are going to be taken by AI and automation over the next 5 to 10 years. And based on that, universal basic income is going to be necessary for people to survive and get by as we transition into this new world of technology. So another major reason why the price of Bitcoin will continue on the rise is because there's a great wealth transfer taking place over the next 20 to 25 years. $68 trillion is going to be transferred from baby boomers down to the younger generations, and the younger generations are much more likely to buy cryptocurrency than gold or real estate or anything. And Pomp tweeted about this today. Bitcoin is the future and gold is the past. Don't believe me? Just ask any kid under the age of 25. And just to confirm this, Mr. Beast replied here, none of my friends own an ounce of gold, but they've all bought at least a little bit of cryptocurrency. And this is only at the beginning. It's going to become the norm to own some cryptocurrency as an investment. And I do think the younger generations just understand this more and they trust it more. They're more familiar with technology and how to keep it safe and everything with their passwords. So the younger generations, as this wealth transfer happens, they're going to be putting a lot of that money into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies that are going to be around long term. And that's another reason why the price is going to keep going up. So pair this next to the Bitcoin halving, which mathematically makes Bitcoin more scarce over time, and pair that up with the fact that Bitcoin is extremely scarce, and just to own, be in the 1% club, you have to own 0.28 Bitcoin. On top of that, there's around 50 million millionaires in the world that are all going to want a piece of Bitcoin. So supply and demand again shows that there's just not going to be enough Bitcoin, and the farther out that we get, the more expensive Bitcoin is going to become. So you may be thinking you're too late to the game buying Bitcoin around $40,000. Who knows what the price will be at the time of watching this video if you're watching this in the future. But I do think we're early to the game, and keep in mind there can always be temporary dips like we recently saw. Bitcoin went down 25%, $10,000 in a 24-hour period from 41,000 down to 31,000, and now it's recovering. So there's always going to be dips, as we've seen in the markets in the past as well. And there's always going to be bear markets at a certain time, but you have to keep in mind every time Bitcoin goes up and goes parabolic, it has higher lows. So that's something very important to take note of. And if you're doing dollar cost averaging, which is what I do, people that do this tend to be very successful in the very long term. And historically, anyone that has done that is in the profits here. So that's about it for this Bitcoin on how much Bitcoin you should own. Basically, a summary is it depends on your personal goals. But if you do want to be part of the 1%, you have to own 0.28 Bitcoin, which is around a fourth of one Bitcoin, around $10,000 right now. So I do appreciate if you guys follow me on Twitter here. I do about 10 posts per day on crypto news and major updates. You can also check out my link tree here where I do have a cryptocurrency giveaway going on, and I will be doing another giveaway as well, and you can find links to all my other stuff on this link tree as well. Also, I do appreciate if you guys subscribe to my channel and follow. I do 2 crypto videos per day, some very time-sensitive information as well, and I am working on a cryptocurrency membership group that will be launching very soon. So stick around, and you definitely get a lot of value out of this channel. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.